If you're not liked enough, they'll find the judge to convict you. I don't like Donald Trump. I have never kept that a secret. Matter of fact, all the way back in 2018, I threatened the man's life to try to get on his court date. I tried everything else. Small towns, man. It don't matter good or bad, it matters who's popular. One thing throughout Trump's presidency that did bug me was the sheer quantity of people who blamed him for things that he didn't do, for things that he had zero control over. It's nice to say after the fact somebody should have put a stop to it, right? But it's always after the fact. Hindsight is 20/20, ain't it? In hindsight, a lot of mandated reporters should have done their goddamn jobs. On the bright side, I'm a mean some bitch. Nashville is not a small town. That'd be like saying St. Louis is a small town. Sure, St. Louis is miserable, but it's not a small town. As far as racist ass little small towns go, no, people don't fucking take care of each other. They don't. In small towns, people are selfish. You got two groups of people in a small town. You got the farmers who got most of the money. And then you got poor people who live in the town. Now, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of people in Chapel, Nebraska that got an in-town house and an out-of-town house and an Arizona house. My grandpa Bruns had one of them. He had a house in Arizona for vacations. He had a house in Chapel, Nebraska. And then he also had the farmhouse. That's more houses than a person needs. Meanwhile, Leonard Littlejohn's apartments were never exactly cheap. Cheap for the area for a while. But the thing is, poor people can't live. We don't get to live. If we spend anything on ourselves or for ourselves, we're called selfish. We're told we're not trying hard enough. There's lots of folks when I was younger, I'd go down to Payless Shoe Source. You used to be able to get a cheap pair of shoes for like $5 to $8. It was back in the 80s. Early 90s even too. And I'd go to Payless and I'd get my shoes and they'd last me about 2 weeks, maybe 3. So a lot of the kids at school made fun of me for having cheap shoes, for having shoes that fell apart, but I walked everywhere. When they told me stuff like, well, why don't you get some Nikes? Why don't you get some good shoes like some Nikes? Are you shitting me? $5 Payless shoes or $119 Nikes? Yeah, I'm not going for the Nikes. I did get a pair of Nikes when I was younger. No, I didn't pay for them. There's a kid I went to school with, and he had a pretty good hookup. And he hooked me up with a pair of Nikes. And you know, he was right. He was absolutely right. Those shoes did last me longer. Instead of lasting 3 weeks, they lasted a month. If they hadn't been free, however, I wouldn't have gotten them. You don't understand that about poor folks, do you? You think everybody's got all the opportunities that you got, that we all have the connections you got, that we all get the benefits of that. There's another kid I went to school with in California. He was really tall. And he wore like size 17 shoes. He come from a poor family, so there was actually a basketball player that sent his game shoes to this kid. And that's pretty cool. An NBA basketball player sending you his shoes that he wore for a game. But to this guy, it wasn't shoes from a basketball player from a game. It was just shoes that were actually big enough to fit his feet. In small towns, people know what you're doing all the time, even if they don't. In a small town, if a popular person says something about you, it must be true. I'm in Tillamook. It's in Oregon. Been from one end of the country to the other, having to deal with the bad laws. Real bad laws. But even worse, we got good laws that are being ignored. We got laws to protect the disabled. We just ignore those laws when those disabled people are homeless. We got laws that make it so that our police officers, mental health workers, hospital workers, teachers, preachers, if you go to them because you're being abused, by law, they have to do something about it. And the law is very specific about what they have to do about it. It's just unfortunate that they choose not to follow it when it comes to the homeless. If you're a homeless female, somebody might care. Might. And we got all sorts of stuff out there for women. 15 services in Boulder County for women, for every one co-ed service. We also got a lot of women who like to play victim, and they don't get what they want, because we made it easy for them to do so. We made it so that if a woman doesn't get what she wants right when she wants it, she just runs around and slanders your name, just like in a small town. In a small town. Which small town? As far as that Jason Aldean feller. After seeing people's reactions to that, well, it seems to me there's a lot of black folks trying to make up for BLM by being sellouts. Not that it matters. Well, it really does. All them black folks shooting themselves in the foot over something they know nothing about. There's a difference between being looked out for and being tolerated. In small towns, if you're not popular, you might be tolerated. But for the most part, it's a lot of people making decisions for you behind your back. You don't think that's how it works in a small town? Then you've never fucking lived in one. I'm all for equality. There's a lot of people who are offended by that word. Oh, Sean, you should use the word equity. My God, no. Not equity. Equal access. It's pretty important. Jeff Baldridge should have access to all the churches and all of the government buildings in Chapel, Nebraska. But in order to have access in many of those places, he has to ask somebody for help. At Rory Jepson's funeral, Jeff Baldridge was there. And he had to be carried up because he's in a wheelchair. He's one of my favorite people. His education on paper is better than mine. His education overall is almost as good as mine. I spent a lot of time educating myself, a lot of time reading, and a lot of time testing things out. I like to know what's up. My older brother, he wasn't able to tell a scam. You'd be surprised how many of my friends are dumbasses. Scams that I sidestep regularly. A lot of people I know ended up losing their Facebook accounts because they got hacked. Well, if they'd have paid any attention, they'd have realized that was what was going on instead of getting took. There's a difference between being took because you're a fucking moron and getting took because nobody cares about you. In a small town, people will be nice, but they'll still talk shit behind your back. I'm not doing it behind anybody's back. Everybody's got access to my YouTube. I didn't go running around talking shit to piss people off. I ran around telling the truth when people were harming me. When people were threatening to kill my friends and family. You goddamn right I spoke up. This shit needed to stop. Social isolation is a fucked up thing to do. You know what social isolation is, right? Did you know that's considered a form of abuse? Did you know that you can go to prison for socially isolating someone? That's right, that's when you lock your wife in the closet, like Dual County Prosecutor Douglas Pollock did. Beat her up and locked her in the closet. He got probation. Probation. Yeah. You end up getting more time for that than for beating on people. Because there's more charges to it. I mean, that right there is illegal imprisonment. But who really cares? There's also the throwing somebody out in the cold or out in the heat. When are these police officers having their homeless sweeps? When it's going to kill the most homeless people? When it's going to deprive the most homeless people of what they need? I got somewhere to be in about 30 minutes. So I'm going to turn off my phone and get started on my day. There really isn't much left of this country to stand for. We're too divided and too stupid. On the bright side, last night them youngins weren't too bad. I got a decent amount of sleep. Small towns are nasty. It's about saying one thing and doing another. You talk about defending each other and sticking up for each other, but in the end, you really just end up getting drunk and beating on each other, slandering each other. Small towns are gross. There's some folks wanting to post up the racist lives don't matter. Well, I disagree. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a racist, but his life mattered. Same thing can be said for Adolf Hitler too, though. His life did actually matter. Look at the impact it has on us today. Saying something doesn't matter doesn't change the effects of such a thing. If there's somebody who lives alone and is used to taking care of themselves, used to having use of their arms and their legs, and then they end up with their arms and their legs chopped off, yeah, they're not the same person that they were before. Saying, oh, it doesn't matter. It's mind over matter. That's fine. That doesn't give the person the ability to cook. Doesn't give that person the ability to clean. Doesn't give that person the ability to take care of themselves. I don't want to live here, but I really don't want to live anywhere. Especially right now, with things getting worse for people on the streets. That doesn't bode well for the rest of the country. It is incredibly expensive to house a homeless person in a jail or a prison for a year. Month by month, it's expensive. So it doesn't matter if you're in there for a month, 6 months, or 10 years, it's still expensive. We're expending more money per month to keep homeless people incarcerated than it would take to get a lot of homeless people unhomeless. I'm disgusted by the world that I live in. I saved a lot of evidence of abuse, but nobody wanted to look at it. They wanted to tell me how to think and how to feel. Two of the most disrespectful things you can do to a person. Two of the most dehumanizing things you can do to a person. Let them know that their experience doesn't matter. There's some of you might hear that and go, you know, being raped is worse than that. No, it's not. Being raped and treated like you deserved it, it's much worse. Being raped repeatedly, that's much worse. Being victimized for being poor, yeah, that's much worse. Because it doesn't stop. You are fined money for not having any money. You spend your whole life playing catch up for a bunch of motherfuckers that don't give a holy fucking goddamn about you. And then we gotta stand behind rich bitches like Aldine and Johnny Depp. You fucking kidding me? I don't have to do that. I'm not behind either one of those men. When it comes to equal, none of you know anything about equal. None of you care about equality. Doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. You may not know what the right thing to do is, but if your first go-to is to talk about violence, you're a fucking chump. Look at how many people's go-to is to kill people. Oh, I'd shoot him, I'd shoot him, I'd shoot him. How many people have I recorded on my channel saying that? No, that doesn't make me trust you. That doesn't make me like you better. That doesn't make me believe you more. Kind of like when Chris Stafford says, oh, cops are bad, cops are bad, cops are bad. But he does call the cops. He does talk to the cops. I've been here for a lot of months, and I've been speaking up on my YouTube channel for a lot of months. Just about Tillamook. When Natalie disappeared, it wasn't much different from before Natalie disappeared. It was just on a much larger scale. People not giving a fuck, me being sent round in circles, all my money getting wasted, and then me being told that I chose it. Oh, well, Sean, you chose it. No. I was bullied. Bullied. People threatening to kill me and my friends and family. And what the fuck did you expect me to do, motherfuckers? Gotta go to a small town where they're not very fucking accepting of people who are different. You know what? If you're disabled and poor in a small town, unless you're a dirt to dur, it don't matter. How dare you have Tourette syndrome in a small town? My intelligence is what got me in the most trouble, though. Not my mouth, but my brains.